What's up, guys? How's it going? Today we're back with another video, and it's gonna be a recap of the BFL 73 event that took place on Thursday, July 7th in Vancouver, BC. And it was a great night of fights. Not as stacked a lineup as we're used to with BFL, but still the fights delivered, and it was a good night of fights overall. We're gonna jump into each and every one of these fights. We're gonna talk about it a little more, but before and on a more like general note, it wasn't the best night for BFL on a production side. Like the stream cut once basically, and it was during the Soucy Kwiatkowski fight, the first round, like the walkouts in the first round. And I was wondering, is it them or is it Fight Pass? And I believe it wasn't on Fight Pass because I was able to watch another stream on Fight Pass, another live stream on Fight Pass that was working out well. So 73 events, sometimes there's gonna be some little technical difficulties, but that wasn't the main thing that I want to talk about. That event was dark, man. Like, I'm not coming here and saying that BFL is usually the most lit up promotion that we see in Canada, but I don't know why this event was darker than most events. It was not lit up well, or it was lit up differently. I don't know why, but it was dark in there. It was really dark, and I love my events to be lit up. To be honest, I love when like lighting is really important. That I don't know why I feel like the lighting was different for that event. But let's just stop talking about like nitpicking on some small stuff here, and let's just jump into the fights. In the main event, we had an interim lightweight title fight, which I didn't know about, curiously enough, is because maybe I'm far away from Vancouver, so I'm not quite into the local lore of whatever. But usually when there's a title fight with BFL, and for a reason or another, I didn't know that this fight was for a belt. So like I didn't pay that much attention to the presentation or whatever before the fight. So when the fight ended and they gave Navid a belt, I was like, why is he getting a belt? But and then the interim lightweight title, and I was like, didn't they just fight for that interim belt just few events ago, 1 or 2 events ago? But then I remember that yes, it was Dario and Cameron, but Dario won and did not make weight, so he couldn't win the belt. So Dario just basically got replaced by a 1-0 guy as the interim lightweight champion of the world. Then, like, if you're ever gonna put a belt on the line for a 0-0 guy in his very first pro fight, I think Navid is a good guy to do so, because clearly he's got the pedigree. He's been like the talk of the town. Clearly, everyone seems to be talking about him, about his abilities back there in the West. And he was main eventing the event in a like a good pro debut. Just weird that this fight is a title fight, but I'm not gonna criticize nothing because he apparently had more than 11 guys turn the fight down. So basically, Austin Batra is just a hero for taking that fight. He's just a hero for letting Navid finally make his pro debut, because he was having a very tough time to being matched up, to having guys say yes to fighting him. And that's because like he's an Asian game wrestling champion. Like his pedigree in wrestling, I'm not gonna start naming it because it's too large, it's too impressive. He's one of the most high level wrestler that we have on the Canadian circuit right now. And the guy pretty much proved it in his pro debut. I loved how calm he was, though. Sometimes you see and it may be the case with the guy in the fight just after, Oguzhan Yalcin. He was another very high level wrestler. There was a stat before his fight talking about like in his two pro fights he shot like in 3 seconds and 6 seconds, something like that. So guy very aggressive. Navid was way calmer. You see that he had worked on some striking. He's not like, yes, he's a wrestler, he's an incredible wrestler, an incredible grappler, but he also has worked on the rest of his MMA game. And yes, he's a beginner, but he has a complete MMA game, and he's able to not come in and just rush for the takedown, because he knows that if he's not grappling or wrestling with somebody, he can't win. That's not the case with him. He was comfortable on his feet. He landed a couple strikes here and there, and when he had the opportunity, just landed a takedown. And he needed only one. To be quite honest, he was able secure the back, get the choke on Austin Batra, and very dominant performance. Batra is 0-3 now, but he's still a good fighter who can give a good test to pretty much anybody who's beginning his pro career is like 0 to 5 fights into his pro career at 155. I think he's still a good fighter, and Navid just pretty much ran through him quite easily. And now he's the interim BFL world champion. And I get exactly why they're doing that, because after the fight, they were telling him about trying to matching him up with the Cage Warrior champion or the Cage Fury, the CFFC champion, which are two other promotions on Fight Pass, but are basically like the top feeder leagues of the UFC with LFA. So, like, I see what they're doing there. Not many like big champions that are super close to the UFC are gonna accept a fight with a 1-0 guy who's got such a pedigree. But if the guy's a champ, you can do a champ versus champ, and you can like imply that the winner is getting a shot at the UFC, because clearly BFL, they're trying to fast track Navid by giving him a belt right now. And if in his first pro fight, they're trying to fast track him, and they feel like he could be ready with his skill level to be a kind of like Cyril Gann was in Quebec. Cyril Gann fought for the belt in his first pro fight against Bobby Sullivan. He then defended it against Adam Deichka and against Roger Souza. Then he moved on to the UFC. It was only 3-0, but he came into MMA with such a kickboxing pedigree and a good camp behind him and everything. So the guy was like more than ready, and you can see that he was a phenom prospect, and it was proven right because the guy was the interim champ, fought for the belt, and is like one of the highest level UFC heavyweights right now, if not like the best UFC heavyweight right now outside of Francis Ngannou. So if BFL feels like they have the same thing in Navid, they should just push him to the moon. And they gave him a belt first fight, and now he's ready to apparently move on to fight against either the CFFC champ or the Cage Warrior champ. So I'm really looking forward to this. It's gonna be such a good fight, and to be honest, I'm down with all that because Navid looked like, yes, he's a super high level wrestler and a good grappler and a guy who's able to get only one takedown and finish the fight, but he also looked comfortable in the cage for a guy who fought for the first time in his life. Like, he had no amateur fights, not whatsoever. He just got in there and fought as a pro, and man, he looked more than ready. He looked very impressive, and I'm super down for what's next for Navid because he's an amazing fighter. Then, co-main event, we had kind of a surprise and kind of not a surprise because, like, if you look at this matchup, it was an amazing prospect matchup. First of all, a good fight, very exciting fight, exciting style matchup. But like Yalcin is very young in MMA right now. He's a super good wrestler. Like I said just minutes ago, he's very good as a wrestler, but like he's got more stuff to work on. The guy is not yet a complete MMA fighter. He's a prospect for a reason. The guy is developing right now. And Ali Wasuk is a prospect too, but he's a little more advanced like in his road. So there's a part of me that was kind of expecting Ali to win this fight, which he did, but I did not expect him to out wrestle Oguzhan Yalcin. That was the surprise here because, yes, I felt like Ali would probably use some striking because clearly he had an advantage there, and maybe use some clinch and some defensive wrestling and try to just stay on his feet, land the better strikes. I thought that was a clear game plan for him, and yes, he did a little striking in the beginning, but I feel like when he felt that maybe he could be able to take the wrestler down, he just went for it and he succeeded. And he had some really good ground control, some good time on the back trying to sink the choke in. And Yalchin, really, for a guy that's that inexperienced, did a good job to defend, to not get finished in that fight. Did a really good job, but it wasn't his night. And Wasuk was able to go and claim the decision. Really impressive win there, too. Really good performance because yes, Wasuk is known as a grappler, is known as a good wrestler, but to, to come in and just out wrestle the guy who is known as purely a wrestler with an amazing pedigree and huge accomplishments in wrestling, It's quite a feat for Ali Wasuk. It's a very, very good win on this record, and he just got back into the win column after losing his title fight with Surrey City, and he wants to be looking for another title opportunity in the future, and he's on the right track. That was a great performance for him. And then before that, Maxime Soucy, Josh Kwiatkowski, and man, I'm super happy for Maxime. He's a fellow Quebecer. I know him very well. But there's a part of me who's like really sad for Josh because man, he's such a hard-nosed fighter. He's a good fighter. The guy always comes to fight, comes forward, try to exchange in every phase of MMA, and he was on a really good streak at like a 5-2 record, 5-3 record, something like that. And now just lost like 3 or 4 fights in a row and just having the worst luck in every one of these fights. Got kicked in the balls twice in the Soucy fight. Not as bad as the fight we're gonna talk just after that. That was super bad level of nut shots. That was kind of bad level of nut shots, but still, that can affect your performance. And like in the fight before with Rovic, absolutely dominating, that gets caught in the triangle at the absolute end, and the Nguyen fight gets caught with like an amazing spinning kick that he never saw come in. And like I feel like he's always in the fight every time, but maybe that one was one of the fights that he wasn't in. Like, to be honest, Susi kind of really dominated here, was able to really showcase the better striking on the back foot, land some good combinations, some good kicks, sometimes to the balls, sometimes not. And just be the more efficient fighter, was able to land some takedowns here and there. Really came tough though. The takedowns were really tough to materialize because, like I said, Josh is such a good and a hard-nosed fighter who never like accepts any position or nothing. So he made it tough on Susi, but Susi, for a guy who was fighting in his fourth pro fight, only to just come in and defeat a 11 fight veteran like Josh Kwiatkowski, who yes is on a bad streak right now for sure, but has been around the block and has been known as one of the best competitors at 445 pounds in Canada. So like, marquee win for Susi. The guy is now 3-1, lost his pro debut to Matarlo, and then just came back absolutely bussing with 3 straight wins. He's now 2-0 in BFL, and just just defeated a highly ranked guy in that promotion. So big things on the horizon for Quebec's Maxime Soucy. And then, like I was saying, that's super bad level of nut shots. Like Christian Tremayne basically punted Adam de Freitas in the nuts twice, and like it was one of the longest 1 round fights, less than 1 round fights that you're gonna see, because like Adam de Freitas basically had to take a minute and a half to 2 minutes. And the second time, maybe even more than that, to recover from like those horrendous groin shots that he received. But like, if you exclude those groin shots, which you can, because it's like basically the story of the fight, uh, the other things that were happening, it was Adam de Freitas being really slick on the feet, landing his jab, and being able to just avoid the shots of Tremayne and counter with some nice shots of his own, and really effective striking from the Freitas, who was like super ahead on the scorecard while getting kicked clean in the nuts. And then there was a grappling exchange against the cage in the clinch, and Tremayne went for a takedown, and the Freitas went for arm and guillotine, and he finished it and got the first round finish. So probably the best way for him to end that fight, because like he got kicked in the balls pretty badly, like to a point where you gotta wonder whether it was gonna affect his performance in the fight or not. So to be able to get out of there early, to not have to face the repercussions of getting kicked in the nuts that much later on in the fight, well, it was the best case scenario basically for Adam de Freitas. Then we had what's in my opinion the moment of the night. Ash Mashreghi, Ash Smash made his return. A guy that I really did not have the chance to enjoy his fights that much. Like when I was doing my rankings and stuff, I knew him, but before BFL was on Fight Pass, it wasn't that much accessible for us back in the East. And yes, there was a pay-per-view link, but to be quite honest, like when there weren't like some major fights or some Quebecers fighting back there, it was really rare that I was purchasing the pay-per-views, and there were even events that there weren't any pay-per-views. So it was tough to see guy like Ash Mashreghi who fought for BFL but for other promotions too, but like mostly for BFL. I think like these guys, they had something like 30 something BFL appearances, pro and amateur between them. So that was pretty crazy. And he was back against James Foster. It looked like there was, I won't say bad blood, but an animosity between the two fighters. And Ash Mashreghi just came out, like I won't say came out strong. Yes, he did, but I feel like James Foster really is the one who came out guns blazing and was landing volume on Ash, but Ash was just waiting for his opportunity to explode. And while James was landing a combination, Ash just landed a monster counter, dropped him, and was able to finish him with a submission few moments after that. So amazing performance, amazing comeback. The crowd was loving it. Ash Smash is a really exciting fighter, as I saw, and I'm really looking forward to what's next for him now that he's reinvented himself now with Titan MMA, one of the better gyms in that area. So can't wait to see what's next for him. And then Makinde Adeyemi, Raphael Ouellet, and I feel that's one of the fight that we gotta talk about the most. First and for all, foremost, first and foremost, first. What did I even say? First of all, I need to say that I'm very happy with the decision. To be honest, I'm very, very happy with the decision. Sometimes I've came in and criticized the BC Athletic Commission for some of the decisions that were rendered in some of the fights. I still feel like they rendered one of the worst decision in MMA history, but I feel like they really did a good job scoring that fight, which was a razor close fight. If Raphael would have won that fight, I wouldn't have cared. I would have even been happy because I fucking love the Ouellet bros. I absolutely love his style. I'm a weirdo jiu-jitsu guy, a guy who's coming in and doing like some cool stuff from the rubber guard. That's my shit, man. I absolutely love it. So if Raf would have won that fight, I wouldn't have been mad, but I felt like yes, he spent lots of time controlling Adeyemi in his rubber guard, but there wasn't that many close submission attempts. It was lots of control and some small shots from his back, but really no damage whatsoever, basically. And yes, the first round they got to the ground quite quickly. Raf was just fucking pulling guard, which I absolutely love. It's probably not the better way to win some MMA fights in general, but when you're as good as the Ouellet bros on the ground, you just fucking pull guard. You don't care, especially since Raf seems to be a little less athletic than his brother, generally, like a little less athletic, explosive than his brother. And I'll know if it's that, but he looks like he's a little less comfortable striking than Nick, to be honest. So when they were on the feet, it was really all Adeyemi. Thing is that they weren't on the feet that much in that fight. But like I said, first round, uh, Raf pulls guard quite early, gets like a three minutes and a half of control on the ground. Yes, there's the big power bomb, but like he's so unbothered by the power bomb defense and he keeps his position, he keeps threatening from the rubber guard. So I feel like first round is an undeniable round for Raphael. You gotta give that round to Raphael 100%. Then round two is the round that they spend the less time on the ground, which is about half the round, but the other half of the round was spent on the feet, and Adeyemi was really able to land some good shots in that round. So it really comes out to, do you score damage, which took place for, let's say, half the round, and there were maybe like three to four, if not five, really significant shots that touched Ouellet and basically nothing in return touched Adeyemi. I don't know how many strikes on his feet Ouellet landed in that fight, but if you tell me it's like one or two or even zero, I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. But then it got to the ground, and yes, of course, Ouellet was in full control, did some nice stuff, but like it goes to whether you want to score half the round of control or half the round of damage. And since it was really half and half, I tend to score damage here. If you, let's say there's a lot of damage, let's say don't contrary, you like inverse. Let's say there's a lot of control and few damage, then it becomes sketchier to score. And that's the case of round three. Basically, round three, Ouellet had hella control on the ground. But it's the only round where Adeyemi was able to land some decent ground and pound. And you gotta think about the question mark kick that landed, and that really seemed like it was the best fight of the best strike of the fight, and the strike that pretty much wobbled Raphael Ouellet, who was able to eat some monster strike and still look unbothered. But that question mark kick that landed early in round three really looked like it was the only strike that bothered Raphael Ouellet. So it, once again, lots of control in that round, more than half the round of control for Ouellet. So if you tell me I'm scoring that round for Ouellet and he gets the 29-28 in that fight, that I won't get mad at you. But the question mark kick and the ground and pound shots that were pretty good that Adeyemi was able to land made me lean towards him in the third round, which is the closest round of the fight. I feel like round one is a clear Ouellet round. Round two, it's not clear Adeyemi round, but it's like very, I think it's easier to score than round three, to be honest. Because round three, like the defining moments of the round are the question mark kicks and the big Adeyemi ground and pound. Like there's not any close submission attempts or nothing from Raf. So I scored it 29-28 for Adeyemi. The judges did too, so I'm happy with the decision. I'm a little bummed out for Raf, who lost his pro debut, but like he looks like a really good prospect. I'm not really bothered about it. He's gonna be back, and he's gonna adjust something and some things in his game, and he's gonna come way more aggressive. I feel with the submissions at submission attempts and all that, because I felt like if Ouellet had been more active from his back, which is kind of funny to say because he looked like he was active, but like the rubber guard was pretty much stalling. Was stalling Adeyemi more than it was like threatening him and threatening to finish the fight. So I feel like they scored damage in that fight. 29-28 Adeyemi is the score. I had two. So I'm happy with the decision. And that leads us to the first fight of the evening. Absolute craziness. If you guys have UFC Fight Pass, go watch that fight. It's the first fight on the broadcast. You can't miss it, and you don't want to miss it because Brendan Labrecque came with the volume, the weird strikes, the weird angle. He really spent all that fight on his back foot, and was, even though was the guy on the back foot, he was landing the volumes, landing the body shots, the body strikes combinations in that fight were absolutely beautiful. But it really seemed like, even though he absolutely destroyed Bieri's nose with a wicked knee, he cut him badly on the bridge of the nose in the very first round, like early on in the fight, which made it an absolute bloodbath. But like outside of that strike, it really seemed like Labrecque had all the volume, but like basically nothing he was throwing was hurting Bieri, and Bieri really got comfortable in that fight in the second and third round, and was able to lend the power, lend the bigger shots. And to be honest, in the sense and the mindset of scoring damage over everything, I scored the two last round for Bieri, not gonna lie, but like that's such a close fight, such an amazing display, and Labrecque really was able to switch up his game plan in round three and do a lot more grappling, clinching up against the cage and try looking for the takedowns and being really efficient there. But I feel like Bieri just stole the round in the final frames of that round with the huge punches that he was landing. And like as the fight was moving forward, I feel like Bieri was really able to land the bigger shots and to put Labrecque on skates at a couple occasions. But every time Labrecque was recovering and just starting back with the volume and the aggression and the wonderful body shots. So just an amazing display of mixed martial arts. One of the better fights of the year, and one of like the closest fights of the year too. Amazing war, amazing pro debut for both guys, win or lose. They both really showed out in that one. And like it's the second time this year and third time in a few like last year. I remember last year the Mitch Trezella Glenn Cuevas fight was absolutely amazing, and it was all their pro debuts. This year we've had Matt Lepper and Damon Marlowe, which gave us an amazing fight, and it was both their pro debut. And then we have the Ginger Ninja and Samson Bieri giving us an absolute classic in their pro debut too. So pro debuts at BFL, when two guys are fighting in their pro debuts, you just gotta check it out because they're gonna go all out. And this fight was absolutely amazing. It was a cool way to start the night, and it really started the event on the right foot and never stopped being good. To be honest, like, no, there weren't the amazing highlights that you want to see. Like maybe the first fight and then the Mashreghi fight were highlights. The other fights we didn't have as much highlights. It was pretty tame in the sense of highlight real stuff. But the Makinde Adeyemi Raphael Ouellet fight was so interesting because Adeyemi was getting all the damage, but Ouellet was doing some wizard stuff on the ground, and then the Freitas Tremayne fight with all the nut shots and everything, like such a good dynamic, and Soucy and Kwiatkowski, where you see Soucy edging him and being better than him, but Kwiatkowski always being there and always trying to take this fight back. Then we got the Ali Wasuk, who just comes out and like out wrestles the top level wrestler in this very surprising performance. And then closing out the night with Navid Zanganeh, amazing prospect who clearly BFL wants to fast track, and I'm super down for it. So that was it. That was my recap of a very good BFL 73 event. Stay tuned for more. Like if you like, subscribe if you want to, and that's it. See